Hey folks, welcome back to 3 Zen. I have kind of a fun story for you this afternoon. The event events were called Tattoo at the Taj, and what we did for 5 months out of the year, May through September, is when I say we, I'm talking about the wing collectively, performed a tattoo ceremony, including a marching band, a drill team, and flyovers. That's where I got involved, was with the flyovers. I first learned of the ceremony or the event on a Sunday afternoon about 4:30 in the afternoon. I was out back, and this four ship of 38s came screaming over our house. I mean, I'm going, holy crap! And what's that all about? And I looked up and I saw these four airplanes, and they're just bouncing all over hell. And like I said, it was a hot day, and we had a lot of thermals that afternoon, and these guys were cooking. At any rate, they looked like quail when you take that first shot at a covey. I mean, they were just going all over the place, and I just went, wow. Anyway, that's the first time I learned of it. I'd heard, I suppose, bits and pieces, but I didn't put it together. So on Monday morning, I went in and got a cup of coffee, scratched my head about, and said, "What was that all about?" And I said, "We had that four ship that did a bomb burst over my house about 4:30 yesterday." So I started getting into it a little bit more, and I'll pick this story up here in a minute. But to give you a little background here, Tattoo at the Taj was actually a retreat ceremony wherein we would honor various factions of the community and of the military. We would have DVs, distinguished visitors from businesses, politicos, military DVs, and so forth. Each month they rotated a theme for it, and they would have these people all meet at the officers club. It was a very controlled time event, as you'll see here in a second. So they had everybody muster at the officers club, give them a few drinks or whatever, and then they took them by bus from the officers club to bleachers that were set up in front of the Taj Mahal, the water tower there on Randolph. And when they all got in place, then the marching band, the Band of the West from Lackland, would come on the grounds, playing Air Force music and patriotic music and so forth. And they would play for a little bit, and then a Stearman biplane would fly over, and you'd hear him just kind of puttering along, put, 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 to come around, and he'd do a circle around the Taj Mahal, and they would play those magnificent men and their magnificent airplanes, or whatever the title was. Anyway, so then he would go off, and then the drill team would put on an exhibition, and then they'd have some more band music, and then a T-37 would fly overhead, and they'd have some more band music. And now the timing was such, it was starting to get a little bit toward dusk. It was getting really into dusk. So after the T-37 went by and a little bit more band music, then they'd have 438s come in, and this is where the bomb burst came from initially. They wanted these 438s to come across the airfield in full AB. So normally our airspeed is 300 knots below 10,000, and that's what they did that day. Well, when they hit the field boundary at 300 knots and lit the burners, by the time they got to the back end of the field, to the west side of the field, they were probably doing 450, almost 500 knots, and then they had to try to slow everybody up, and that didn't work so well. So I said, "Hey guys, there's a simple solution to this." I said, "Fly your inbound airspeed at 250 knots with the speed brakes down." So you could do that. And then when you light the burners, everybody gets the burners up, you're coming across the feet, put your speed brakes up just before you cross the crowd. Your speed's not going to run away from you, and you're not going to have your hair on fire when you cross the west side of the field. And that's the way it eventually went. So they would fly by, and then now it's getting pretty close to dark. It's transitioned from dusk to dark, and they would come out and play taps. And at the end of taps, we would have one T-38 then come from behind the Taj Mahal and go into an A-B climb and kind of ended the night. And then they'd pick everybody up in the buses and take them back to the officers' clubs for drinks and kudos and this, that, and the other. Well, that was the mission. So to give you a little background on how we pulled this off, the Band of the West and the drill team were known entities that came over from Blackland. That was not a big deal. The steerman was a local guy, and he was just thrilled to death to perform. The 38s and the 37, in order to pull this off, we needed 4 airplanes for the foreship and a spare, and we needed 1 airplane for the pull-up and a spare. So that was 4, 5, 6, 7 T-38s. 7 T-38s, which meant 14 instructors, because we didn't put students in these. And we take those 7 airplanes off about 4:30 maybe, fly over to Kelly because they didn't want any noise at the airfield when distinguished visitors were taking their seats in the stands. So we'd launch about 4:30, 4:45, fly over to Kelly, refuel. 7 airplanes, 14 instructors. And the tweet would do the same with them. They had 1 tweet and a spare. Then our time over target was just at dusk. So we would take off accordingly, go into a holding pattern, and wait until the appointed time for the run-in. All right. So that's pretty straightforward. And for the most part, it worked just as we planned it. There was, as far as I know, the 3 years I was there and participated, we didn't have but one really, I don't know if you call it a bad glitch. It was an exciting glitch, I call it that way. What happened is on the, everything went fine until the run-in for the solo coming from behind the Taj Mahal. So this guy's coming in, a young instructor pilot. He's coming in from behind, and they call him up. We had 2 pilots, one in a tower to relay to instructions to the airplanes how the timing was going, and one up on top of the Taj Mahal. So they called Spike, and they said, "Hey, Spike," they said, "they're running a little bit behind. We need you to slow up a little bit or make." Usually what you do to kill time is you would roll, do an S-turn one way and the other just to bleed off, slow up a little bit. So I'm not sure exactly what all he did, but Spike ended up losing some airspeed. He went from 300 to maybe 260, something like that, 270, 275, somewhere in that area. The problem is he got a little too slow there. So when he came from behind the Taj, he pulled the airplane up into, maybe a 45-degree climb. From the ground, that looks like you're going straight up. And then, as he pulled up, he happened to look at his airspeed as it went through, probably through 150 or whatever. You can't fly at that airspeed, the way we do. So he ended up doing what we call a stability demonstration over the top of the stands. What happened? He just ran out of airspeed. So he takes a stick and he pushes it forward, and the nose just comes down like this. He ends up coming way down like so. And he said he's looking straight out the windscreen at the stands at the middle of the Taj Mahal. Anyway, he's coming down. Fortunately, he had the fortitude to keep the power in. So as he came down, he started gaining airspeed and was able to pull out of the dive. But I don't know where he bottomed out. But I guess it was exciting. On that particular ride, or on that particular night, I happened to be in number 3 for the flyby. And so we landed, went over to the officers club, and did a little bit of grip and grinning with the DVs, and then went home. The next morning, I got a call from Tom Bob about 9 o'clock, 9:30. He said, "Bob, what the hell happened last night?" And I was thinking, okay, give me a hint. What the hell happened? Of course, I didn't say this, but I'm thinking to myself, "Sir, I wouldn't have a clue." He said, "Well," he says, "we need to talk about it when you come in." And I said, "Okay, will do. So he had gotten a word about Spike's stab demo over the top of the show center, and I didn't know anything about it until I got in. I heard about it and went, "Oh, good Lord!" The other funny thing about this particular night was the squadron commander was in the back seat of Spike's airplane, and the squadron commander, bless his heart, he was a nice guy, but he didn't fly as much as some of us did. So I can just imagine what was going through his head when he saw nothing but dirt as Spike was pulling out. At any rate, that was Tattoo at the Taj. As it turned out, when General Rohatch, who came up with the idea of these ceremonies, when he got his assignment, I think he went to Italy, if I'm not sure. We had a going away party combined with a Christmas party. So I took several folders, if you will, I think 4 of them or 5, and I made mention that Tattoo was Colonel Rohatch's brainchild. And I said, so he won't feel a little bit lost when he gets to Italy, I said, or wherever he eventually ends up going. That's the way it was. I said, we put together plans for Tattoo at the Leaning Tower of Pisa, Tattoo over the Eiffel Tower, and Tattoo at Mount Fuji. And I don't know how amused he was, but the rest of us were pretty tickled. Oh, one last thing I'm going to talk about here before we go. When we started this, that first year we started it, it seemed if you flew in one of the events, you qualified yourself for an achievement medal. I don't know who came up with the awards and decks in that vein, but that's what they decided. The second year, we decided, you know what, just because a guy sees an airplane shouldn't qualify him for the achievement medal. So we tightened the standards to where you had to have 3 sorties. You had to fly in 3 of the events over the season in order to qualify for the achievement medal. And a lot of guys wanted to do this. It was fun to do. So we put that together and everybody was good with it. At this time, I'd gotten my squadron, the 12th Student Squadron, and I went into the Student Squadron with the idea that my guys were going to be players in these events too. So I lobbied for a seat in each one of the airplanes, one in a Tweet and one airplane in the 38, 2 IPs, and I got it. And so the guys knew that they had an opportunity to not only participate but be recognized for it. Well, at the end of the season, for whatever reason, I don't know the politics of this, but Tom Bob decided that the year before we gave out too many awards, and this year we were, even though we agreed on 3 sorties and you were recognized, they did away with that. Boy, that pissed me off. And that's the kind of things, this is one of the kind of things that I butted heads with Tom Bob about, and to no avail. And he just told me, Bob, he said, that's just the way it's going to be this year. He said, maybe we can do something about it next year. Okay, fine. Anyway, there were 2 achievement medals handed out to aviators that year. The pilot in the tower and the pilot in the Taj Mahal that relayed the timing both got achievement medals. And all 7 bus drivers were awarded with achievement medals. Those are the kind of things that drove me nuts. At any rate, maybe I had to go through it so I'd have a little bit more to add to my story on Tattoo at the Taj. And that's the way it was. Thanks for tuning in. See ya.